also am losing my voice, and it's going to be great. It's all great. It's all going really well. I'm very excited for today. And I haven't written since Thursday. Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm Mandi, author of 10 young adult novels so far, 8 of which I'm rewriting this year. Welcome to vlog 4 of that adventure. Technically speaking, I had an intro to this video, and then it got deleted. And, yep, we're remaking it right now. It's fine. I didn't do anything the day that I made the initial intro. I just did an intro. And then it was like 3 days later before I wrote, so it doesn't really matter. I haven't actually written yet in this vlog. I did the intro last week, and then I didn't write on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. So here we are on Monday. I have a prickle, which is a gathering of my writing group. We write together, and I'm going to be tackling chapter 8, which, now that I come to think about it, is actually the spoiler alert, major death scene in the book. It's the big one. It's the midpoint of the story, it's the middle chapter, and it is the death of someone important. So I don't know how I'm going to feel writing it. When I initially wrote it almost 10 years ago, it was the first real death scene that I had ever written. The first book I wrote, there was no death. It was a much happier story. And then I wrote Lucy's Legend, and there was definitely death, and it was tragic. And I remember after writing the scene for the first time, I went and sat on my couch and just like sat there for an hour, just like feeling grief. It was traumatic. But I don't necessarily expect to feel traumatized this time, because since that first death scene, I have killed a lot of characters. And if you keep up with like my fantasy writing vlogs, I kind of relish killing characters these days. It's kind of fun. You know, let's traumatize the characters, make the readers cry. This is all grand. So I don't expect to be emotional. However, because I do vividly remember the emotions of the first time I wrote it, that might affect me, and therefore writing it again might be emotional. And also, because this time around I have been digging into the character and her story arc more, and like gave her an Enneagram type, and like I just know so much more about her as a person now. And also I've made it so that her story arc cuts off dramatically because she dies, so she doesn't get a complete story. I feel like I'm going to realize it's more traumatic now than I realized at 17 when I had no clue what I was doing. So for that reason also I might be emotional, but at the same time I know how I feel about killing off characters now, and I kind of enjoy it in some sort of sadistic way. So yeah, I don't know that I'll be emotional, but I might be. But anyway, that's the chapter we're working on. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't really have anything else to say. How many words are we at today? This is the important thing. 41. Hold up. January 24th. We are cutting it close, ladies and gentlemen. 41,665. The original document is just over 42K. We've just hit the middle of the story. Pretty sure this book will be like exactly twice as big as the original version. So chapter 8 is actually rather long, and we haven't made it to the death scene. I've added about 4,000-ish words to the new document so far. There's like 4 incidents that happened prior to the big death scene. It is in this chapter, but it's the last thing in this chapter, apparently. Which I didn't really remember, so I was expecting to dive into the death scene, and that's not what I've been doing. I've been dealing with the other narrative summary, dialogue-heavy situations that are apparently scenes in the original, and making them into actual scenes. Like, there's this one situation. So one of the members of the gang, Will, gets wounded, and the original, I have to read it. Little John hurried into camp with Will in his arms. Little John gently laid him on the ground, and Mary hurried to his side. Is he? Little John shook his head. He's still breathing. Dusty will be here soon. We were confiscating some of the sheriff's taxes. Dusty was exposed too long in front of the enemy. I hate the way this is worded, by the way. It's been changed, but anyway. Dusty was exposed too long in front of the enemy before they were all taken care of, and one of those blasted soldiers shot an arrow straight to her heart. Is she okay? Yeah, she's fine. The arrow never hit her. Will was near her and saw it coming. He pushed her out of the way and took the arrow himself, here in his chest. There's so much blood. We need to stop the bleeding. Dusty should be here soon. Robin and the rest of the gang were dealing with the rest of the soldiers and will bring the confiscated taxes soon. Dusty entered the camp and hurried over and knelt beside Marion. Dusty worked quickly, cleaning the wound and applying a strange mixture of herbs. Little John and Marion were silently watching, holding their breath. It was a tense few moments as Dusty worked quickly and quietly. Marion thought Dusty looked paler than she had ever seen her before. Finally, Will groaned. That's the scene. It's basically just dialogue. Also, it's clunky dialogue that makes my heart hurt. But anyway, so what I did with that particular scene is I added description, so like what is going on in the camp, what are Little John and Marion doing, what do they look like, what does Will look like, what are his wounds, come on people. Yeah, definitely did some, there's blood gushing and, his face is ashen and like things are happening, we're not just like Will. Anyway, yeah, there was a lot more description to make Will's wounds more present and then to make the, panic of Little John more obvious and various things. And then on top of that, like, there's so much going on inside Marion right now that is so not present in that scene. So, like, her father just died. So, watching another friend dying would make her crazy, like, emotional and everything. But on top of that, Marion doesn't trust anybody. So, like, the very close-knit, tiny circle of people that she allows, like, into her life, Will is one of those very, very few people. So, like, that in itself would be causing a lot of emotions. And then the fact that she's still raw because her dad just died, and, like, now this person that she trusts, which is a big deal, is dying. Like, ugh, there's so much going on inside her head, and none of it is present in that scene. And, like, ugh. Anyway, so I was adding a whole lot of stuff to that scene, specifically, just now. And then I did a couple more scenes after that. The other ones were not as, like, painfully obvious that this is horrible. But, yeah, that specific scene just made me cry inside, because I know what I intended with it. Which is why it's, I guess, easy for me to pull that out now and, like, make them into scenes, because I know what I was trying to do. I just wasn't doing it. Anyway, I've got one more, like, big situation to deal with, and then the major death. I'm also debating, I named the chapters in the original, and I'm keeping the names right now as I'm doing it, but I'm debating doing that, because after Lucy's Legend, I don't think I have ever done named chapters after that. I don't think I even did named chapters with the rest of, I could be wrong. We'll find out as I continue the rewrites. But I don't think I did name chapters through the rest of the Robin Hood series. I feel like it was just Lucy's Legend, which is bizarre. So I'm going to have to take a look at that and see if I did name chapters in the other ones. Maybe it'll just be an OG Robin Hood thing. I don't know. We'll see. I would like to finish chapter 8 today, though. Especially because I haven't written in 3 days, and we're possibly getting behind on this, like, do this in a month thing.
Okay. I'm losing my voice. So that's great. Last night I did finish chapter 8. I wrote the death scene that I thought I would be writing earlier in the day. I did tear up a tiny bit in the midst of actually writing the scene, but afterwards I was not emotional about it in any fashion. Which I think is a good way to go. Because if I'm not crying, my readers probably aren't crying, but at the same time, like, I kind of enjoy killing off main characters. It's fun. If you are afraid of death, be wary of my King Arthur fantasy series. Not that it's published, but, like, at some point, be wary of it, because I enjoy killing off main characters. I don't feel like it's necessarily in a sadistic sort of way. It's just kind of like, yeah, there are stakes. What are you gonna do about it? I'm a little bit sad that in the original, I say this after this major death scene that I just wrote, but in the original Robin Hood series, there's not a lot of stakes. Not a lot of people die. There's like the one big death, and that's kind of it. Yeah, and I've always been a little sad about that because sometimes I just want there to be more stakes. So we're on chapter 9 now, I guess is the point. I don't know what that's going to look like. This is the point where Lucy originally entered the book, is chapter 9, right after the midpoint and the major death scene. She's been a part of the new version this whole time, so I don't know how that's going to alter things. It did alter some of the exchanges between old Lucy and her great-granddaughter that she's telling the story to, because in the original, prior to Lucy being like, oh, I'm here, there was this mysterious archer in Nottingham that the gang was like, who's this? It's not us. Who's this? And then there were a couple scenes in the present when Mary Lou was like, who is it? And I had to cut that because Mary Lou was like, well, obviously it's you. Who else would it be? I know you're in Nottingham. Anyway, so yeah, I had to change that a little bit. Also, writing the proposal scene yesterday was interesting because it just came out of nowhere and was really casual, and like we just ignored it. I did this with every scene that was in any nature romantic. The first time Marion says I love you, which should have been a big deal because she doesn't trust people, and like it took her half the book to tell Robin that she actually loved him, like should have been a big deal, but it was a really casual comment and brushed aside, and then we moved on. In the original, it's not that way now. And then the proposal scene from Robin to Marion was exactly the same. It's just sort of like, casual comment, and then we brush it under the table, we move on with our lives. Yeah, 17-year-old me was really awkward and just didn't want to, I don't know, own the fact that I was writing a love story. I was writing a love story, but I was pretending I wasn't writing a love story. I'm actually, here's the deal. So far, both the proposal scene and the first time Mary says I love you were both like awkward, casual, we're pretending this isn't happening kind of scenes. But going into this rewrite, the scene that I knew beforehand would be awkward like that is actually when Guy proposes to Lucy, which is much later in the book, and I remember feeling awkward as I wrote it, and I remember reading it later and thinking that's the most awkward thing I've ever seen or written. But after reading the proposal scene yesterday between Robin and Marion, I was like, that's the most awkward thing that I have ever read or written. So, now I'm a little worried to get to the Guy proposal scene, because I remember that one being really awkward. Chapter 9. There's not a proposal scene in Chapter 9. Lucy's just getting introduced to the gang, finally. Starting word count today, 49,299. We are so close to 50K, you guys. And we just hit the midpoint of this story. My biggest book, I think, to date, would be Return to Grace, which sits somewhere in the 90s, I think, like 92, 94,000. I think that includes front and back matter, but it's in the 90s. I feel like Lucy's Legend is going to be so big. Maybe not. Maybe the latter half of the book will just, be small. Somehow I doubt it, because so much happens in the last half. Anyway, I didn't bring my pens. Pens! There's not a scheduled prickle at a time to excuse me, today when I can get on, because typically I can't get on Tuesdays anyway because I'm not at home. But children are sick today, so we're all home and hanging out, and I'm losing my voice and probably also getting sick, and it's great. But the point is, I'm home. I can get on a prickle on Tuesday. I just messaged the group and was like, I can't get on any prickles. Who wants to write with me? And I have a couple of hedgy sisters who think that's a great idea. So, we're going to be doing that in like 30-ish minutes. 49,299. If you want to know why I put my word count in this helpful little book, it's because I would not remember otherwise where I had started, and therefore would not be able to keep track of how many words I write a day. And I love that. I love keeping track of how many words I write a day. It just makes me so happy to look at my calendar and just be like, wow, I was so productive this month. This is ridiculous. What I have noticed, however, is that very little gets done on Tuesdays usually because I'm not home in the mornings. And then also, nothing gets done on Fridays. the rewrites notebook, which is keeping track of how many chapters I edit, you know, whatever. Nothing on Fridays. Literally nothing. Ever. Nothing gets done on Friday. I get it. I'm dead by the end of the week. I'm so tired and exhausted. I don't want to do anything. And then when I wake up on Saturday, I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Let's do this. But, like, nothing gets done on Fridays. Don't know why that just really strikes me. Everything strikes. Oh, I didn't. Oh, guys. Guys. Why didn't you tell me I hadn't put my bookmark back in? I gotta stop talking to you. When I set you up and I'm sitting, I just get really chatty. It's a problem. We don't need another hour-long video. No, thank you. I am actually hoping that this will be the vlog. This will be it. Vlog 4, kind of 5, because I split 3 and 2. But anyway, vlog 4, I'm hoping, will be the end. It means I will have to talk very little, to be fair, because I have 7 chapters to get through. But, yes, I would like this to be the last Lucy's Legend vlog. It's the 25th of January. The original goal was to get Lucy's Legend done in January, which means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days to get 7 chapters done. I never work on Fridays, so it's more like 5 days to get 7 chapters done. I've only been actually doing about 1 chapter a day, unless I have a bad day and I only do a few pages. But 1 chapter a day, I've been fairly consistent from the beginning to do 1 chapter a day. So, I'd finished on February 2nd, which is only 2 days off my schedule, which is, I think, fine. I said I was going to stop chatting at the camera. I don't know what it is. When I set you up right there and I'm sitting, I just have so many words. It's a problem. This is going to be a short video. Short video. We got this. We're doing chapter 9. Also, I might talk less anyway because we're moving into the latter half of the book and I don't really want to spoil everything, except that I literally spoiled the biggest spoiler of the entire series in the previous vlogs. However, moving forward, I'm going to try not to mention it as much. I'm not talking. Turning off the camera. Turning it off. I am not about to talk a lot, but I just added 3,000-ish words to the new document. That's probably half-ish new words, half-ish old words that I've transferred over. And, you know, maybe reworked a little bit. So yeah, that was good. I actually had to, like, completely redo the first scene of chapter 9 because it's Lucy's introduction to the reader and the gang in the original book, and Lucy's been around since the beginning of the book this time around, so I had to revamp the whole thing so that it wasn't introducing her to the reader because the reader already knows her and doesn't need all of this, like, introductory information anymore. But the gang was still meeting her for the first time, so that was interesting. And it's also interesting, like, still adding all the internal, here's what she's struggling with stuff, because Lucy struggles with nothing in the original one, so that has been interesting to, like, alter scenes on that level. I haven't quite finished chapter 9. I'm getting close, but I haven't quite finished chapter 9, so I hope to finish a few more scenes today. There are 2 potential times that I might be able to write with my Hedgie sisters again. One of them is towards the end of the afternoon nap time, might not make it, and then the other one's this evening. So I will probably finish chapter 9 today. I'd love to start chapter 10 as well, because, you know, doing more than 1 chapter a day would be helpful on this last week of January, but we'll see. I'm not gonna stress that or push too hard. Because I've been moving really fast, let's be honest. I started this project on the 5th of January, so it's, what, the 25th, 20 days later, and I'm already 52,457 words into this new project, and I've redone over half of it at this point, so yeah. I mean, this has been great. This has been amazing so far. I do have, in my original schedule, I wanted to do each Robin Hood book in a month, and then follow that up with the dystopian trilogy in a month. However, the dystopian trilogy is also my wiggle room. So, if the 5 Robin Hood books take longer than 5 months, I have 3 months that could potentially be the dystopian trilogy or could potentially be my wiggle room this year. So, you know, if I go 2 days into February, it's not going to kill me because I have 3 months that are, like, easy space between finishing Robin Hood and publishing Robin Hood. So, yeah, it'll be fine. It's all fine. I said I wasn't going to talk a lot and I'm chatting. Stop chatting. Stop chatting, Mandy.
Also, my phone is going off. Yeah, at the end of the last, at the end of the last prickle. Well, first of all, at the start of the prickle, I started talking, and then my throat just couldn't handle it, and I was coughing, and I was sneezing, and I was coughing some more, and then I was literally crying because I was coughing so much, and it was a hot mess. And I was supposed to be like hosting, you know, because even though it wasn't a scheduled prickle, I was the one who was like, let's write, you guys. Yeah, so I was supposed to be hosting and like asking people what they were working on and all this stuff, and I was sitting here and be like, the entire time. It was a mess. It was a mess. Anyway, and then at the end of the prickle, like right as I was about to talk to one of my Hitchy sisters, she logged off, and then she messaged me on the Slack, and we were just like laughing and giggling together, being like, wow, you hung up on me. Anyway, it was a whole hilarious experience, and I loved my writing group. That's what I have to say about that. But anyway, I thought about all of that right now because my phone is going off. If you hear that, that is the Slack, that is my sisterhood, that is doing something, I don't know. Yes I am. I'm on chapter 9, which is a little over halfway through the book. I'm very excited. I do, especially by comparison, because I hadn't read the old one in several years. I mean, I knew that it was not up to snuff, but I hadn't read it in a while. So honestly, I thought it was more put together than it is. So it's been, yeah, it's almost a little shocking reading the old one, but then like the difference is more stark, because like I knew my writing was different, but like now I'm like, wow, it's very different. Okay, well, I wrote absolutely nothing yesterday because I had a head cold. Still have the stuffy nose, but I'm not dying like yesterday. Yesterday I barely survived the nanny duties, and then I went to bed at like 5:30ish last night. Did not wake up until 7 when I had like 5 minutes to get into the car and to the bus stop for the 5-year-old. So, you know, it's going well. But anyway, wrote nothing yesterday. The day before, I finished chapter 9, which was Lucy's introduction. I went 3 or 4 pages into chapter 10, not sure how far. Didn't finish chapter 10, but we did a few pages, which was good. Lucy herself is driving me nuts. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we have a teacher's pet, and I hate her. I mean, I don't really hate her, but the way Lucy is presented in Lucy's Legend is driving me up the wall. Like, every time she's in the room, someone says that she's a beautiful young woman, and her laugh is always described as musical, and her eyes are always sparkling, and like, I'm going to punch her in the face. Yeah, I've been cutting a lot of description about Lucy because it's driving me nuts. And then I've also been trying to balance keeping the plot points the same while also making her behavior not completely bizarre. So like, in the original, she had no faults, she struggled with nothing, she just waltzed in and was perfect and wonderful, and also she was able to influence everyone around her to also be perfect and wonderful because she's Lucy. Anyway, and moving through the first 8 chapters, I was diving into her psyche with the Enneagram, obviously, because that's where I was pulling faults for her, because she had none. But also Return to Sherwood and Return to Grace, my sequel series, because I spent 8 years writing this character. I know her. She's just presented very poorly in the first book. But anyway, so through the first 8 chapters, I was able to dive into her character, and it was going well, I thought. And then I reached chapter 9, where she's actually introduced in the original. This is the first scenes with Lucy, and it's a problem. So her introduction paragraph is like, you know, her parents were murdered and she ran away from home and abandoned the one person that she still knows who loves her and like whatever, and like then she shows up with the gang and she's fine, like totally fine, like content, joyful, happy, has no demons from her past whatsoever. I'm like, I just, did 17-year-old me read the opening paragraph of Lucy's introduction? Because there is so much there we could dive into, which in fact I have been diving into. In the first 8 chapters, we have dealt with the fact that her parents were murdered because that's her inciting incident, and like, we've been dealing with the emotional fallout from that for like 3 years through the first 8 chapters, and yeah, because I have Lucy in a vulnerable place now, which she was not in the first book. Some of her conversations with characters just read very false, because in the original she'd have conversations with the gang or with Guy and would just be like perfectly fine. She was the wise mentor of the group. And because in this rewrite I've made her human, some of these conversations just don't work. And so it's actually very difficult now to, like, leave the plot points the same while also changing Lucy's behavior. Because her behavior needs to change so she doesn't read like a really false, bizarre character who's, like, in no way real whatsoever. Especially now that I've given her vulnerability in the first 8 chapters, and then you hit chapter 9 and she's suddenly like, I'm perfect, I'm fine. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work! So, yeah, it's been difficult, actually, I have found. This is gonna be interesting. More difficult than Marion, because Marion, there was only one plot point I had to change in any fashion. Everything else was just, like, highlighting the emotional response, which was, like, pretending to be in the story, but not really, and then I was like, no, really, it's there. And now with Lucy, it's like, no, I actually have to change things, but I don't want to, because I made this promise that I wasn't going to change plot points. And also, I can't change some plot points, like, I can't change some plot points because of the sequel series Return to Sherwood, Return to Grace, which I'm not planning on rewriting. So, like, some things just have to be the same, so that that series is not inconsistent. Lucy's a problem, okay? She's a serious problem. But I am about to get on a call with my critique partner, because she's read the first 7 or 8 chapters? I don't remember how much I've sent her, to be honest. Somewhere between 6 and 8 chapters. Yeah, and we're gonna talk about it. She's gonna tell me all the things that did not work. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I am going to be trying to finish chapter 10, which is, you know, Lucy walking around and sparkly-eyed and being perfect. A halo of flowers and sparkles. It's all the sparkles. Always sparkling. Sparkling. That is the only thing. It just sparkles. Anyway. Yeah, we're getting into some, you know, shenanigans in Sherwood with the sheriffs being crazy and things are happening. So, like, it should be an exciting end of the chapter, but, like, I'm serious. If someone says that her eyes are sparkling again, I'm going to decide to kill one of these characters. They're just gonna nixing it. The next person who says she has musical laughter and sparkling eyes is just, they're dying. Yes! Yes! I should have that. Someone just be like, man, this woman's laughter is terrible. It makes my ears bleed. I hate it. Oh, man. Her eyes are like daggers. Yes! Ugh. No. But see, the worst part of the whole thing is that I'm the one who described her like that so many times. So many times. This was nobody's fault but my own. I was just very clearly, I loved Lucy. You know, I was, I was like, this is my favorite character, and we're gonna describe her because she's perfect and she has no flaws and her eyes sparkle, and I'm just like, Anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna keep working on chapter 10 and try not to actually kill characters because it's, you know, it's my fault, it's not theirs. Definitely making her human this time around. She's gonna have struggles and flaws and non-sparkling eyes. I love how the vlog where I said, I'm not going to talk a lot this time, is, you know, the one that was over an hour long, and I talked a lot. To be fair, this one I was able to cut down because I repeated myself a lot and then also just talked about nonsense that was super unimportant. But anyway, I was able to cut this one down to a reasonable size compared to over an hour. But we're cutting it. This is the end. We're done. Yeah, that's the end. I love how at the very end of this, you know, latter portion of this vlog, I just started to hate on Lucy. Like, as soon as I hit chapter 9 and we'd made it to the portion where she actually entered the story in the original version and there were like scenes of Lucy to edit rather than just making up new ones, yeah, I just came to loathe everything to do with Lucy, and it's really not fair because I love her character. I just really dislike the way that 17-year-old me described her character. And also the plot points and the way she interacts with people is inconsistent with the first 8 chapters of what I was creating her to be. So I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board on that because she has a lot of 1 tendencies, and like at her core I feel she's a 1. Which is why in the first 8 chapters when I was making up Lucy scenes, I was going with 1 stuff. We're talking Enneagram here, in case that wasn't clear. I don't know that I've discussed that specifically in this vlog. I know I did a lot in the third vlog, which is why I had to cut it into 2 separate videos, but that's not the point. Anyway, the point is, in the latter half of the book, when Lucy is actually on screen, the way that she interacts with and affects the world around her is very 9. It's me, and more specifically, it's Maribel from Encanto. I don't know if you've seen the new Disney movie, but like, yes, very 9. So, either Lucy is actually a 9, and I need to rework the first 8 chapters with 9 struggles instead of 1 struggles, or she's a 1 wing 9 and has, you know, strong elements of both. I need to do more research on that. I'm a 9 wing 1, so like, I don't know, maybe Lucy is just very me. Maybe that's why I was always describing her as the perfect person, because I was describing my ideal self or something. I don't know. Anyway, I need to do more research for Lucy, or like, I guess like soul searching for Lucy and like who she is at her core. I still feel she's a 1. I do, because like the desire to be good and not be corrupt, and then the way that ones like hold themselves and everyone around them to high standards, you know, and they are judgy if they don't make it or you don't make it. They just criticism everywhere. Like it's very Lucy. And throughout the latter half of the book, which I haven't really got to everything yet, but throughout the latter half of the book, when people question her integrity, she snaps the way that a 1 would. Like, she does. That seems to be her core, right? Because security, harmony, peace, like, she likes those things, but that's not like her. This is the end-all be-all, right? I don't feel like she's a 9. I don't feel like she is. She just has a lot of 9 tendencies, which is fine. She's got a strong wing, you know? But anyway, I need to do more research on that. All that is to say, this is the end of the vlog. I came on to say this is the end, farewell, like, comment, subscribe, whatever. And then what I ended up doing was just ranting about the Enneagram again and making this vlog even longer. So, I just stop beeping, I'm trying to talk here. Vlog floor, wow, no,